So the government have recently come out with a mini budget in order to help tackle the cost of living crisis. But despite receiving backlash about handouts to the rich, in a hasty government U-turn, it doesn't matter what the government are doing, and in actual fact it's so much more important that you have a sole understanding of your finances and your financial position into what's going to be a bit of a storm to come. So today I wanted to try and do my very best to actually share with you guys what the actual physical pound and pence impact will be on your finances over the coming months ahead. Look, let me be honest, it's all well and good looking at inflation figures at 9.9% and using that as a potential benchmark on how much you could potentially expect your monthly outgoings to increase. However, published inflation figures only ever tell half the story. So today we're going to do a little bit more digging beyond that of what you hear on BBC News. And I'm actually going to do my very best to create a bit of a case study and a model to share exactly how much the average person will actually be impacted by the cost of living crisis. Now, before I get into this, quick disclaimer, I'm obviously going to focus on a few core areas which I personally believe are going to have the biggest impact on household expenses. Secondly, I'll try and do my very best to use kind of average numbers as and where I can, but of course, appreciating that everybody's individual circumstances are obviously going to be different. So naturally, the outcomes of this video won't be 100% accurate for every single individual watching this video, but nonetheless, most of it you can probably resonate with, and if there's anything that I've missed out, be sure to leave it down in the comment section below. But then on the flip side, what this video will do is provide you with a little bit of a financial baseline to work with, along with some figures and facts that you can actually work with as well. And the document that I am going to use during this video, I'm going to leave a link to down in the description below as well, for you guys to download completely for free if you want to work your own finances into it. So with that being said, let's begin. Now, the way I'm going to look at this is like a company cash flow model, where you've got your cash inflows, i.e. your income, and you've got your cash outflows, i.e. your monthly expenses. The result of which being you'll either end up with a net positive or a net negative cash flow. So a very simple methodology that everybody can follow and very much apply to their own personal circumstances. So first things first, let's talk about cash inflows, also known as income. Now, the median household income in the UK right now sits at £31,385 per year. Now, the reason why I've picked the median income rather than the average income is because the medium level of income is the kind of the middle ground between a big sample size. Now, the reason why I didn't use average income is because that can be somewhat skewed by the top 1% or the top 0.1% of earners who are earning millions of pounds per year, and obviously kind of push that weighting average higher. Now, as I want to translate everything down onto a monthly budget point of view, the average household income of that 31,385 quid actually translates into an after-tax take-home pay of £2,094 and 9 pence per month. So that's going to be the baseline of today's video. Now, Liz Truss and her cabinet members have recently brought in some new policies as part of their mini budget proposal, and this mini budget proposal is supposed to help us navigate our way through the cost of living crisis and essentially help household incomes go further. So let's start off by listening to the first one.
The increase in employer national insurance contributions and dividends tax will be cancelled.
So the additional 1.25% increase in national insurance contributions, which took place back in April as of this year, have now been scrapped. As a result, your take-home pay as at November 2022 will rise to £2,113 and 69 pence, an increase of £19 and 60p. And then they came out with another personal tax policy.
We will cut the basic rate of income tax to 19 pence in April 2023.
So instead of your 20% basic rate of income tax, which you'll pay up to earnings of £50,270 per year, it's now dropped to 19%. Now that will result in an additional tax saving of £15 and 68 pence per month, which if we just nip over to our personal cash flow tool, takes our actual income up to £2,129 and 37 pence. The equivalent to an additional gain on the whole of £35 and 28p. Now, in addition to those measures, the government have also brought out an additional package in order to help navigate the storm of rising energy bills.
We are continuing our existing plans to give all households £400 off bills this winter.
Now, this package will be split over 6 months and deducted straight from your energy bills at the value of about £66 and 66 pence per month. So in total, during 2023, or at least for the part of it anyway, the average or the typical household income can expect to have cash inflows of £2,196 and 3 pence, with the equivalent of about £100 or £101.94 of government support. So that's the income side of the equation done. So now let's dive into the cash outflows, also known as your expenses. Now let me be upfront with you guys, these numbers have been quite difficult to put together. I've taken a lot of these numbers from a source called Nimble Fins, who actually looked at the Office of National Statistics UK household budgets for 2021. And that is what I've kind of baselined most of these numbers off. Now I'm not going to lie guys, when I plugged these numbers in, they didn't even add up. What I mean by that is that the average household income didn't even equate to the average household expenses because the expenses were higher than the monthly income. So I've had to adjust the numbers slightly and only really include the expenses that I feel like are going to be relevant to every household. But I think if anything, just looking at some of these numbers certainly shows that your average or your typical household was very close to the wire before. And that's before we even start applying the increase in interest rates, the increase in energy bills, and just the general increase in the cost of living. So let's start things off by talking about the household nice to haves. Now this is obviously quite hard to predict what everybody spends, but I actually found a study that actually shared what the most common expenses were and exactly how much they were. So sharing with you guys exactly what these nice to have items are and how much we're spending on them. We've got restaurants and hotels at £150. We've got recreation and culture with things like pets, gym fees, TV, etc. at £100 a month. Package holidays at £119. Clothing and footwear at £101. Personal stuff, i.e. toiletries, jewellery, sunglasses, etc. at £76 per month. Now all of these things run up to the cost of £546 per month in total, which roughly equates to about 26% of the typical household income. However, to keep things simple, I am going to apply the inflation rate right now to these nice to haves at 9.9%, which gives us all of these numbers here on the right hand side. And over in column E, you can see the total difference between what they were in 2022 to what they could potentially be in 2023. With the new cost of outflows being £606 and a penny, the difference of about 60 quid, which to be fair is probably quite a fair assumption. But be sure to let me know down in the comment section if there's anything that I've missed off that's particularly notable, or indeed if you just completely disagree, because of course, this is certainly individual to every single one of you. So now the next topic that I want to talk about is the mandatory household outgoings. Now unfortunately Kwasi Kwarteng didn't actually give us any kind of entertainment budget as part of the mini budget that he put out. So unfortunately we're kind of just stuck with those costs and we'll have to deal with them. But on the flip side, he did manage to lock in energy bills for us.
Firstly, to help households, the energy price guarantee will limit the unit price that consumers pay for electricity and gas. This means that for the next 2 years, the typical annual household bill will be £2,500.
So again, when we're talking about the typical household expenses for energy bills, let's just uncover this. We're expecting them to rise to £208.33 per month. That's up from £164 as of probably about August and September time before this new energy price cap came in. The addition of about £44.33 per month. Now, as a side effect of these handouts from the UK government, the Bank of England have pretty much said, well, that's simply not going to bring down the levels of inflation to our desired target. And as a result, they've had to invoke something called contractionary monetary policy, which in essence means in English that they're starting to now hike interest rates, which of course then goes on to have a knock-on effect on our loan repayments and our mortgage repayments too. So in essence, it's like giving with one hand but taking in another. Now it's quite difficult to forecast what the true impact of interest rates could be on our mortgage repayments because nobody knows how high that the Bank of England could put their base rate to. However, some analysts in the market are kind of predicting that we could see interest rates, or at least the base rate, going as high as 6% by next year. However, for now, we only can look at the official bank rate, which is 2.25%. Now, earlier today, in order to calculate these kind of mortgage figures, I actually went on to confused.com and actually did a mortgage calculator for my own mortgage with a loan to value of 63%. And on a 3-year fixed term, I was offered an interest rate of 5.84%. which compares to the 1-something% I'm paying right now. Now this is where it becomes quite scary, because proportionately speaking, my monthly outgoings or my monthly mortgage repayments would increase by 52%, which when applied to our example which we have here, would take our monthly outgoings from £628 to £954.56. the equivalent to an increase of £326.56. And let's not forget, if the base rate does rise up to 6%, then mortgage rates will be even higher. Then we move on to the weekly food shop. Now, I don't know about you guys, but you better believe I've downloaded my Asda Rewards app in order to claw back every single penny that I can, because it certainly feels like the cost of the food shop is going up every single week. And that probably makes sense because the reported food inflation figure as of August 2022 was 13.1%. So when we take a look at our calculator, we are going to do that inflationary adjustment, which takes the monthly cost of our food shop from £276 up to £312.16, the equivalent to an increase of £36.16. To me, that certainly feels a little bit light on the ground in terms of the numbers, because just from personal experience, I'm sure many of you guys have probably noticed this as well, but some food items are up 20, 30, 40% than perhaps what they were last year. But again, I'll make this tracker available for you guys, which I'll leave down in the description below in order to plug in your own numbers. I'm just trying to go off the reported figures that we have from the government. So next up, let's talk about transportation costs. We've all heard that the used car market has certainly been on the up. Fuel isn't exactly cheap. And as a result, transportation costs actually peaked at an inflation rate of 14.8% in July 2022. So I'm going to use the worst case scenario here and apply that 14.8% inflationary adjustment to transportation costs of £272, which now equate to £312.26. Again, the increase of £40.26. And to be fair, 312 odd quid also feels a little bit on the low side for monthly transportation costs. Because remember, I've done this based on the typical household income. And when I say household income, I'm assuming that there's going to be two people living in that house. And therefore the likelihood is that there's going to be two people driving cars too. And according to petrolprices.com, 90% of new cars are actually brought on finance. And there are actually 1.65 million new cars which were sold in the UK in 2021. So to me, that seems like a lot of borrowed money, a lot of finance money in order to purchase new cars, which aren't exactly cheap. So I'm assuming that it could potentially be more than 300 quid per month for the average household, but let's just go with it anyway. Then finally, we've got some just general expenses, I guess you could say, like insurance, licenses, road tax, and council tax. Now, just by the very nature of these kind of products, I haven't actually changed them or made any kind of inflationary adjustments. The reason being, things like car insurance as an example, the longer that you have it, typically the cheaper it becomes. So as a result, I've kind of just netted it all off that the cost will roughly stay the same. And when we run the calculations on all these numbers, it actually equates to a net average monthly expenditure for 2022, which has just increased by £405.28. Which means in this example, your expenses are actually running at 118.45% of your monthly inflows, which simply isn't financially sustainable. No wonder there was absolute outrage at the abolishment of the 45% income tax bracket, whilst your average or your typical household simply won't be able to make ends meet. So from all of this, I guess we kind of have three options in order to play with. 1, we go into debt. 2, you increase your income by 18.45% in order to maintain your cost of living. Or 3, you cut back on some of those nice to have household expenses. Option 1 is simply a no-go and should be absolutely avoided at all costs. Option 2 is a possibility, but it's obviously a tall order in the short term. However, I don't really want to make that as an excuse, because the power of the internet really does give every single one of you guys watching this video the opportunity to create a side hustle and actually eventually go on to increase your income over time. Then finally, I think the fate of most households is they'll actually just simply have to go with option 3 and cut back on all of the nice to haves. It'll be a pretty miserable existence for everybody out there who has to cut back to the bare minimum, but the truth is there's probably millions of households out there that will certainly have to do this. So look, I'm not going to profess to have all of the answers or indeed all of the solutions. But if you are concerned about your own financial situation, then be sure to click that link down in the description below in order to download this tool, plug in your own finances, go through them with a fine-tooth comb, and see where you can try and cut back some of your expenses in order to make ends meet. And in addition, I'll try and leave some more helpful resources down in the description below in order to help you guys make your pounds and pence stretch that little bit further over the winter. So with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed or just found some value in this video. And if you did so, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. And with that being said, See you over in the next one.